Yeah, yeah. Making her way to the mic. They start dimming the lights. You start feeling alright. From Birmingham, home of the Teddy Longs and the Ruben Studders. More once you discover. For all of the lovers, Whitney Houston and Roman Reigns. For all of the lovers, and Mickey James and Marvin Gaye. For all of the lovers, and Sasha Banks, Janelle Monáe, Silk, Sonic, and Paige. Allow me to say, look, I just found a place, sweet escape. Every one of us, I was kinda late, so I just made it off the struggle bus. Walking by the faith, cause I know it's right in front of us. Yo, I ain't with the hate, gotta focus on what's great. Ladies and gentlemen, Steph Hardy is on the air. Had to drop a couple bars just to make you all aware. So, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. You know I go by Joe or the rest of the flow, yeah.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Hardy Wrestling Podcast Live Vibe with your girl, Stephanie Hardy, of course, the host and creator of this fabulous show, host and writer of Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet, and color commentator for the Belladonna Division Battle Club Pro and Black Girl Magic 2. And I'm so happy to be with you on this Wednesday night before Christmas. All kinds of amazing stuff going on. Happy holidays to those who are celebrating other days as well. It's just an amazing time, to just be celebrating because we made it to the end of the year and here we are. So thank you guys for joining and watching everywhere we are live right now. But with me is a very special guest. She is someone who I had the pleasure of being on the Women of Color panel with at Comic-Con Los Angeles for the Women of Color in Wrestling panel with, of course, hosted by Katrina Blake of In Cat We Trust. And it had like so many amazing and diverse women on this iteration of the panel. And this is one of them. I'm so happy to have met her. She is the first Vietnamese American women's wrestler. She is a multi-time champion, a belt collector, a trainer, and just all around amazing person and just an amazing survivor whose story I'm so glad I got to hear as a part of the panel. She is Viva Van. How are you, Viva? You're on mute, Viva. I can't hear you. Yeah, you're still on mute.
My bad. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. You're good.
Well, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Next to me. And at the panel, I was just like, you know what? I need to have her on. I gotta have her on. I need to hear her story. There's just so much I just wanted to get to know about you. So, Viva, I'm gonna start by asking you the question that I ask all of my guests, and that's, when did you fall in love with wrestling?
I fell in love with wrestling when I got the first PlayStation console. Can't remember the exact year when it came out, but I got it, and I remember the game that my dad bought with it was the WrestleMania arcade game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember hearing you say that, and I was just like, you know what? There was a lot of people on the panel who said that they started with video gaming, and this year has really been the year that I found out various ways that people got into wrestling, whether it be via video games, reality shows. I just had a past guest, Griffin McCoy, who said that he got into wrestling via documentaries, and also Jack Black in Nacho Libre, and just so many different avenues. So I love that video games just kind of got you into it. Like, that's just a really valid way to get into it because the video game culture is very deep. Yeah. So when you combine wrestling with it, which is just as deeper, it's just way more passionate. So I can imagine that was really cool for you.
It was, and I had no idea any of these characters were real characters. I thought it was just a game. And it wasn't until like a few years later when I was sharing to my friends at school about this cool game I got, and all my friends were like, why don't you just watch it on Thursday night SmackDowns? And I was like, wait, what do you mean? Like, yeah, watch them on Thursday night SmackDown live. And I was like, what do you mean? This is like you're pranking me, right? They're like, no, these are real wrestlers. And when I found out these were real wrestlers, I was really amazed and I got hooked on it right away.
Yeah, so you really didn't know that these people were real folks.
No.
Yeah, that's cool that you actually thought that they were just characters, but as it turns out, these are real
Mhm.
human beings doing all this crazy stuff. So I think that that's really funny, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's still very valid in a sense because there's stuff that when you're watching wrestling, even now, even I can imagine as you're a professional at it now, there are things that you still can't believe that the human body can allow you to do, right? So it's just like
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of hard to believe, but yeah, all of it is very real. Wrestling is a very real concept. It is a very real thing. So I think
Mhm.
that's really cool. So when did you decide that ultimately this is what you wanted to do for the rest of your life as a career?
Well, I've always had the secret dream of wanting to be a professional wrestler. I never told anyone about it until I was a lot older. But it wasn't until I was in the middle of college where I decided to Google the nearest wrestling school. And I was miserable in college and I was a broke college student. I found a school, but I couldn't afford to start. And I just remember driving home from class one day and just praying, like, I don't know how can I get this money, but I need this money to start. And I got hit by a car from behind, fender bender, not a big deal. But the guy was like, you know what? I don't want to get insurance involved. I know it's my fault. Here's a check. And it was the exact amount I needed to start the wrestling school. And I started the following Monday.
That is insane. So while you were in college, you were basically going through the struggle that all college students or most college students go through, because I know that struggle myself. And you
Mhm.
were just really you were sad. And then you just knew that deep down inside wrestling was what you wanted. And then by happenstance, God and or the universe, depending on what my viewers believe in, offered you a way for it to happen. And sometimes that's just how it is. You manifest something in your spirit and you think about it so much so to the point to where, it gives it to you. So I
Mhm.
completely admire that. But off the subject of wrestling a little bit, what were you studying in college when you know, knew that you wanted to wrestle, but what were you pursuing even still with that?
At the time, I was studying accounting. And I was miserable with it. I ended up switching to marketing and I still graduated and I still continued college while wrestling training.
It's pretty interesting. So basically, if somebody needed help with numbers or marketing, you'd be the person that they could ask.
Not with numbers, marketing, I got you all day.
Yes. Okay. I get it. That's cool. And you did wind up graduating. So that's really cool too. I
Mhm.
did see that, in doing more research, on you that you did get your degree while you were um training with your wrestling. So was that hard to juggle? Like was that hard to, pursue your degree and do wrestling at the same time?
Yes, it was very hard. Not enough sleep, always drinking coffee 24/7, a lot of breakdowns. I was breaking out a lot too. It was stressful. It was a really, really stressful time, but I really wanted to do it. And when you want something really bad, you go for it no matter what.
Definitely, I 100% get that, and as a coffee girl, I totally get it. Because even now, I have, like, 1 full-time job, a part-time job, and I'm doing this and my other wrestling stuff too. So Starbucks is, like, my best friend, and I probably spend more on Starbucks than the average person should, but coffee is just that's just the adrenaline that you need to push
It
you
is a
through.
must, right? It's like it makes your day better.
It does. It really does. Like, and even in the moments where you're not having the best day, you're just like, you know what'll make me feel better? A muffin or a scone with my favorite order. For
There you go.
definitely. So I get it. So in the midst of you going to college and then also wrestling training, you found the wrestling school. So what wrestling school was it and what were some of the greatest lessons that you learned, during your training?
I started at Santino Bros and then I ended up going to Knox Pro later on. And the things that I've just learned like everything in wrestling that you need to learn, which is like the move sets, not just the move sets, but the psychology behind it, and also like cutting promos and just learning about the business and how to get your foot out there and how to introduce yourself and just get yourself out.
Mm-hmm. And who would you say were some of the best trainers that you had while you were learning everything?
I'd have to say Rikishi.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Gotta love Rikishi. Gotta love that NOI family background and all that know-how. Like, I can only imagine what it was like to learn from him underneath his learning tree. I'm pretty sure he had lots of stories and lots of great lessons.
Yes, lots of stories, lots of knowledge. He's someone that has done it all. And he was the person that, like, the way he would word things to me, it was like a light bulb switch for me. Like, I was learning moves, I was learning like psychology, but I didn't really 100% get it until he took me under his wing.
Yeah, that's usually how it happens sometimes. It's like sometimes, you'll struggle just a tad bit, but then someone will say something that will make it all click for you, and you're just like, oh, that's what that meant. So I
Exactly.
totally get that. Yeah, I totally get that. I respect and love, teachers of all kinds because I really feel like they deserve more credit and also more payment than they normally get. That's also, via education and also in wrestling and in other places too. Like teachers really do help make the world go round because they feed, into the future of life because of course someone had to feed into them, and as they feed into others it's like they're continuing to help the world evolve and just get better. So
Hmm.
teachers really do deserve more credit and more love than they get. So I'm
Hmm.
glad that you were able to have that experience as a wrestler in school. So in the midst of all of that, and after that, when did you realize that you were ready to sort of get your career started, after your training?
That's funny because I felt like I was ready as soon as I started training, but I took probably about a year and a half until I made my debut. It wasn't up to me to when I was ready to debut. Like we go through like a graduation process of when all your trainers agree that you are ready because they don't want to let anyone out there and make a fool of themselves. So it took a year and a half. So probably around 2018 was when I finally got out.
Okay. And did you have any like good experience as you, continue to matriculate throughout the independent wrestling scene? And did you, of course, build up, a really solid fan base during that time?
Yeah, I had a really good like first year or two because I think I like within my first year I knocked down 75 matches. And I heard that not a lot of people do that in their first year. So I'm very thankful
Wow.
for that. So it forced me to learn a lot quicker.
Yeah, it seems like you have a really strong worth ethic for that to happen in your first year. Like, it's funny how sometimes when you first start something and all, and you realize you've worked so hard, then once you look back, kind of like people are doing now since it's the end of 2022, you look
Yeah.
back and you realize, holy cow, I did all of that, in 1 year or even two or however long it took them to get started. So it
Yeah.
seems that you really have a good head on your shoulders when it comes to your work ethic.
Yeah, I guess you can say I'm a workaholic. There are weekends where I do miss like family birthdays and family gatherings and it sucks, but my family, they're very supportive and they understand that I'm out here chasing my dream. So they understand.
Definitely, and I'm glad that they do support you and that they do understand. And I know it can be hard, but at least, you do have that support system and that they love you no matter, what. So I'm glad that you do have that. So while, you're in your wrestling career, you're balancing everything, trying to find that balance with your career and all of that. Were there any struggles that you faced, when you first started in wrestling? And would you mind speaking on some of those if it's comfortable for you to speak on it?
Okay. Well, yeah, there are some struggles that I did end up with where people would tell me things that I was only getting bookings because of the way I looked, not because of my talent, or
Hmm.
or things like, "Oh, we can't book you. We already have another Asian person on the show." It doesn't happen anymore after the speaking out movement, but definitely before speaking out movement, things like that I've experienced.
That is so terrible to me. Like, I haven't experienced it because I'm still, new in terms of working on the commentary side of things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, and also I've been sort of, blessed to matriculate, to sort of commentate mostly women's matches and also a few men's matches here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But when I hear other stories of people not feeling as safe to sort of be who they are, and then it's just like you have other people in charge, who sort of, pigeonhole folks and then make it seem like, oh, well, I have one type of this person, so you can't be there. It just disheartens me because it's just like every person of the same background or of the same race, isn't the same. Like,
Yeah.
we're all different and very multifaceted. So why can't there be room for more than one type of person? So it just disheartens me when I hear stories like that. And
Yeah.
hearing multiple ones like that, it's almost like it makes me wonder how people, even feel the strength to even continue to keep going, but they
Mhm.
do.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that people like you don't let that deter them,
Hmm.
or don't let that stop them from pursuing their dreams.
Hmm. Yeah. It all, honestly, like the term hell bent, I call myself hell bent for a reason. I've been like that my whole life. My mom growing up, she came from the Vietnam. She came from Vietnam, and she's mixed. She's half white, half Vietnamese, and she was bullied in Vietnam for that. So when she came over here, she, was just trying to make an honest living and just trying to raise me. And single mom, she eventually had three more kids after that, and she was taught that good things don't happen to people like us, because I remember growing up telling her I want to be a singer like Britney Spears or something. Like, how kids are. Like when you see someone on TV, I want to be like her. I want to do what she's doing. And I just remember my mom telling me things like that don't happen for us. Like just trying to like not crush my
Mhm.
dreams, but also not for me to expect so much in life. And I would always tell her, no, I don't like that thought. I'm gonna change your mind. I'm gonna do whatever I want, and you're gonna see it.
Yeah, I definitely understand that because, of course, life can sometimes be very disappointing for people. And it's just like, your parents protect you because of course they love you and they want the best for you, while also at the same time it may come off as harsh at first, but ultimately they're doing it kind of from a place of love, but not realizing sort of a little bit of the damage that it might have, while also at the same time being
It
protective.
was
But
what she taught, yeah.
yeah. Mhm. But, whenever we dream, we dream big and we want more for ourselves, regardless of that. So,
Mhm.
um, I did see, it's so funny you brought up Britney Spears because while I was also doing research on you, I saw that you did a little bit of singing and you also did a little bit of guitar and piano stuff. So, did you have, like, was there a point where you did pursue a music career?
I did. uh, well, most people just know about my death metal band, but if we go further back to like maybe 15 years ago, I was going to a performing arts school while going to a
Wow.
regular high school and junior high, and I was pursuing R&B at the time, but it didn't really go anywhere because it is not. I love R&B, but like the music that I like more is death metal. So eventually, I just grew
Mhm.
and did that. So not that many people know about that side of me that I did R&B.
That is so sick because I love R&B too. And then I actually went to school at Berea College and I have a Bachelor of Arts degree in music. So
Oh
I'm
wow.
yeah, I'm classically trained, but I love, R&B and I also love gospel music and rock music as well, so I like a lot of different types of music, but R&B is something that I listen to a whole lot. So
Yeah.
I think that that's amazing that that's what you were, pursuing, and you love death metal too.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
oh
like
my god, that's so
and then
cool.
scary at the same time. Gotta have a little bit of both to even it
Yeah,
out.
you do. Yeah, you do, and that's just so cool. Like, that's another amazing thing about you that I guess a lot of people would not have necessarily known.
Mhm.
So, have you ever thought about maybe, like, singing your own theme song? Is that something that you've ever thought about doing, in wrestling?
I don't know. I don't think I would like that.
Oh.
I don't know if I would like walking out to my own voice. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird thing. I guess I don't know if most singers probably feel that way about about themselves, but I do.
Yeah, I think someone tried to suggest that to me once, and I was just like, "Nah, I'm good."
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good on that. And I had,
Like, I'll do it for
Josiah.
someone else, but I won't do it for me. You know what I mean?
Right. And actually this year I was lucky enough to actually sing a jingle for Tasha Steeles for Women's Wrestling Talk. So I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
I love doing it for others, but as far as doing it, for myself, I am not sure.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
We're like our own worst critic, right?
Oh my god, yes. Like I used to hate going back and listening to my own recordings or like watching performances of myself. Like I can barely do it now. Like I can even barely watch my own interviews now unless making a clip or something that's like a few seconds long and then I
Uh-huh.
post it everywhere. And
Yeah.
it's really hard for me, but eventually it does get better. It does get better. So I
Mhm.
think that's amazing, like talented. You can do all these different things.
Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, I already asked you, about your fan base and everything else that you sort of have going on towards the beginning of your career. So, of
Mhm.
course, a lot of wrestlers, dealt with, the growing changes, of course, with 2020, with there being a pandemic and all the things that, shut down in the midst of that. So, how were you able to sort of navigate that and then bounce back, from it, with your wrestling career?
So I was on a roll in 2019. I had so many bookings lined up through 2020 all the way up until summer. And I was going to
Mm.
go to the UK. I had so many like big opportunities coming up. And then the pandemic hit and that like stopped everything. And then not only that, but living on the West Coast, everything completely shut down over here. We couldn't do anything. Wrestling training, you couldn't do that either. Think there's just like 6 months of me just being at home, not doing anything wrestling related. It was the hardest thing ever. And I think during that time I had a lot of time to just think about how I wanted to present myself, what I wanted to do, how was I gonna like reinvent myself when I came back. And yeah, and that's when I got the streak. And I started training at Knox Pro and I started learning from different people and just I feel like I had like a rebirth. Like even though like yeah, 2020 was really hard for me. It was a very hard time, but I needed it to give me that what is that? Fire under my ass. I don't know if I should say that, but
Yeah,
you know.
some people. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Some people say, to light a fire under their ass, or some people do say, just to keep
I
like
wasn't
a
sure if I
fire
was
in their
able
belly or something like that. Yeah.
to.
Yeah, I get it. A lot of people, a lot of the wrestlers and other people that I've spoken to over the past, well, I started the podcast in February of 2020. So that was before the pandemic, at least a month before. So it's
Mhm,
just like a lot of the wrestlers that I've spoken to since then, found different ways to either get to know themselves
mhm.
or, tried to find ways to sort of heal their careers and do all kinds of promos and stuff in order to still improve on things, even though there wasn't any bookings going on and everything was shut down. So
Yeah.
it's good that you were able to do that, for yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, it was really hard. And it was hard, even harder when like the East Coast was starting to open up and do shows, and all the people on the West Coast, all we could do was watch. We can't do anything, you know? So that was another thing too. That was like, I want to go to the East Coast, but I can't, you know? There's nothing going on over here. I'm just over here training as much as I can, but I'm not. I'm like it felt like I was training because training eventually opened up, but it just felt like I was just training for like for nothing to happen almost. So I'm very thankful that
Mm.
everything opened back up now and West Coast is popping. So we're good. We're good now.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear about because I did, of course, since I'm from Alabama, we were kind of like a back and forth with the openings and stuff because we're the South. Um and that was a whole thing. But
Uh,
either way, it was easy to hear about how it was affecting us and our little bubble and how it was affecting everyone else on this side of the country. But
mhm.
for the West Coast, I really, you knew that everyone was shut down, but not really hearing exactly how it was fully affecting everyone on the West Coast. Like, I bet that had to be hard to see everybody else just kind of be like, okay, we're tired of this and open everything up, and y'all just like, I bet that had to be hard.
Felt serious FOMO for sure.
Yeah, I get it. And then being over there, like in California, everything's just really busy. So
Mhm.
I can't even imagine, that type of adjustment to
Oh yeah,
just nothing at all.
big difference. We're busy now. Again, we're back to regular California time.
Oh yeah, I was just over there. Y'all are awesome.
Yeah.
It's it's a lot going on, but
Yeah,
it's cool though. It's cool.
right.
So, after that, and you coming out of the pandemic and even changing up your look, like with your hair and all of the above, what would you say was one of the best things that happened to you, after, of course, the pandemic and after you were able to sort of take a night?
The best thing? Like I can't really narrow it to one thing. I felt like there's so many good things that happen, you know. Um
Well, you can
I
name
just
all of them. That's fine.
okay. Well, well, what I can say is that when the West Coast finally opened back up and we started working again, I just was on grind mode. Just kept my head down, kept working weekend after weekend after weekend, just going out there, trying to get my name out there, working as much as I can. And then I looked up one day and realized I just won my third belt. I think I'm on to something now. So then I won another one, and then eventually I won another one. So I think like winning all these belts have been so important to me because it means a lot to me that like people see my hard work, you know? And just like want to say like 2 years ago, literally having nothing. So like having 5 belts now after the pandemic, it just it just helps me to like realize this. I waited, yeah, it sucked that happened, but I had to reinvent myself to like get myself going again. And then we're here. And that's all I've been doing is I've just been trying to keep grinding. I mean, the belts, I mean, are like I love them. I'm happy that I have them and stuff, but like I think the most important part is just getting my name out there and people finally knowing who I am and people are finally looking over here to the West Coast because like I mentioned, like when we're just looking at the East Coast, like West Coast was dead. And now everyone's looking over here, everyone knows all about us and know what we're doing, all the different promotions that are popping over here. So yeah. Sorry.
No, no, don't apologize at all. This is a safe place to feel those things. Like, this is great. And you do deserve that. And I'm really glad that you were able to do that, and be a part of that West Coast, renaissance in wrestling. Like, that's great that you were able to do that, bounce back and win all of those titles, and you're a part of that. And that's beautiful. And it is perfectly okay to cry. You can cry. It's okay.
I did
Sometimes
not expect to cry at
you
all. I've
might
never
cry higher.
cried on a podcast before.
Well, it's the first time for everything. It's okay. We all cry. It's fine.
Uh-huh.
This is a cry space. So yeah, that's wonderful. I totally get it. I totally get it. It's wonderful. So what would you say are some of your hobbies outside of wrestling?
Hobbies outside of wrestling, probably going to Disneyland.
Ooh.
Going to Disneyland is one of them. I am obsessed with boba and popcorn chicken. And
Mhm.
I think that's all I really do is wrestling, working out, boba, and Disneyland. That's all I do. That's my whole life because that's all I have time to do in between traveling.
I've been to Disney World like maybe 3 times in
Oh,
my
I love
childhood.
Disney World.
But I've never been to Disneyland, and I would love to because I love Disney everything, like,
Uh-huh.
almost every Christmas or almost every year, like, I get anything Disney related. It's like, if you give me anything wrestling related or Disney related, I'm good because I just love Disney movies. Like, that is just I love that so much.
Yeah.
That's like an entry into, like, my inner child that I just never let go of. It's just,
Yeah.
oh, I love it.
That I
What's your
think that's why I love it so much too, because it's just like it keeps me I guess in a way, like it keeps me like, I'm like healing my inner child. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why a lot of, what do they call us, Disney adults? We're just
Yes.
healing our inner childhood traumas, I guess, whatever it is. But
Yes.
it makes us happy, right? And
Yes.
Disneyland, yeah, is the original park, but I do think Disney World is a bit better.
Yeah, like okay, what are the differences would you say between Disneyland and Disney World?
It's a world. Literally. Disney World is a world and Disneyland is just a land. It's just one park or two because of Disney California Park, but it's not as big as Disney World. I love Animal Kingdom in Disney World. I think that's my favorite park there. It just literally feels like it doesn't even feel like you're in Florida. It just feels like you're just in a whole nother, like you travel to a whole nother planet. That's how it feels.
Yeah, like do you have any favorite Disney
I'm sorry, favorite what?
Disney movies? Do you have any favorite
Oh,
Disney
favorite
movies?
Disney movies. I have a lot, but my favorite one growing up was The Little Mermaid. And I think
Mhm.
that I can relate to The Little Mermaid because she's pretty damn hell bent, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's why I was attracted to her for that.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Like that is a really good one. And then it was right before like the proper, I guess, 90s Disney Renaissance that a lot of people talk about. And it
Yeah.
is really good. I can't wait to see, what Halle Bailey does with it with the live action one.
No, yeah, I'm
I'm
excited.
gonna cry.
I know.
Oh my
Yes.
god, the teaser trailer ruined me. Like I was just like, "Oh my god." I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
I'm a Lion King girl. Like that is really like my favorite one.
I did watch Lion King a lot too. Lion King is also
Mhm.
like Pocahontas. I will watch Pocahontas. All of them, actually. I don't think there's
Yes.
one Disney movie that I didn't watch as a kid. I even had the Vietnamese dubbed version that my mom would buy for me because I didn't learn English. I didn't learn to speak English till I was 5.
Oh
So she would
wow.
buy like the VHS with the Vietnamese dub over it. But you would hear the regular voice, but then you would just hear a Vietnamese voice on top of it.
Oh wow. That's different. But
Mhm.
at least, there was a way, for you to access it in that way. So I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So I mean, sheesh, like my favorites, it was like The Lion King, a Goofy movie, and this
Yeah,
is
the Goofy movie.
yes, I love a Goofy movie. Still love Powerline to this day.
Uh-huh.
Like, love it. And
Gumball
Hercules.
too. Oh yeah, Hercules was another classic.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I remember watching Peter Pan, like Snow White, all of them, Alice in Wonderland. I would watch them like religiously over and over and over again.
Yes. And then I would memorize the soundtracks. It would be like
Oh wow.
to this day, I still know almost all the words to a lot of different movies. Like definitely Mulan too. Like that was my favorite
Oh,
one
you
of
would
mine.
definitely love that. It's funny that you bring up Mulan because it wasn't until that one song. What was the name of the song when she's singing? Was
Ref-
it called Reflections?
yeah, reflection. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't until I was singing along to that song was when I realized that, hey, I think I can sing a little bit.
Oh, that's so cool. That's
Yeah.
an amazing that's an amazing song to make that discovery on. See, my way of figuring out I could sing was the fact that I was singing along to Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, which isn't
Uh-huh.
really a Disney movie, but at the
Yeah.
same time it was still important because I was Brandy and Whitney Houston and everybody in my house was like, "You're going to watch this." And then they bought the video and I memorized
Uh-huh.
the whole song. That was a whole major
Yeah.
moment for me.
Was it for were you singing and then like family members would like look at you like you could kind of sing. You actually sing pretty good because that's what happened to me. When I was just watching Mulan over and over again. When that part would come, I would keep rewinding it back to the song because I didn't have a CD. It was just a VHS, rewinding it back to that specific spot, and I would sing along. And that's when I had my cousins and my grandma would tell me, "You can actually sing pretty well."
Yeah, for me, it wasn't my family members, it was my teachers in kindergarten who noticed.
Gotcha.
It was my teachers. It was my teachers because they used to put the movie on every Friday, and I would sing
Uh,
along, and they'd be like, "Hey, she can actually sing and actually come on."
oh,
Sorry, guys, technical difficulties.
all good.
But back to the
No.
wrestling component of this conversation.
Oh no, she's off the air.
All right, I'm back. I am so sorry about that.
I
Talking to
didn't know
you
what to
guys.
do. I was like, what do I do?
No, it's not you, it's me. It's totally me. Forgive me. Those who are watching, please forgive the internet for being a donkey. Um, and I was trying to get the conversation sort of back to wrestling because we were talking about Disney stuff, and I don't mind doing that. So I think that's really cool that your hobbies are amazing. And I do love popcorn chicken too. That's really
Spicy
good.
popcorn chicken?
Huh?
Spicy popcorn chicken?
Oh no, just the regular because I don't
Oh,
like spicy food that much.
I'm obsessed with the spicy one. That's why.
Spicy food burns me.
I think that's the
Like I
point.
don't like.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Like I just want to eat it just straight through and not feel any pain. That's just what I want.
Gotcha.
I'm just playing that way. Yeah.
It's all good.
So to get the conversation sort of back to wrestling now. Um how do you feel about the state of wrestling and what's good about it and what can be improved upon in your opinion?
I love how women's wrestling is killing it right now. I do believe that women's wrestling probably gets the most views too. On a lot of the promotions that I worked on, if you look at all the women's matches, like you can just see that women are bringing views to the channel. And I love that there's now shows that are planning more than just one women's match per show. We now have like 2 women's matches to 3 women's matches. We need to see more of that, you know? And things that I feel that can improve is just more diversity, I guess, you know? Um, this goes back to like me speaking on me being a Southeast Asian wrestler. There isn't really any representation for me in any major promotion right now. I mean, I am the first Vietnamese, women's wrestler, and that's probably why. But I just hope that that would change one day, where we would have more opportunities for Southeast Asians.
Yeah, like that is very valid. Both of those points are really valid because you can see that women's wrestling, there's like a desire to be quenched when it comes to women's wrestling, and a lot of people really are, running to find it wherever they can. And then of course you have women's, like, all kinds of shows where women are at the forefront of it and people are, running to buy tickets for it, running
Mm-hmm.
to watch it, and the viewership is really high and all of the above, to the point to where even on your most mainstream shows, they will put women, and put them throughout the show as opposed to just having like maybe one match, in like a 3 hour span. It's like multiple. And I love seeing that now, but I wish that I had seen it a little bit more as I was growing up, because next year I'll be 30 years old. But growing up in the 90s and in the 2000s, I wish that I had saw something more like that as a kid, preteen into teenagerdom. I didn't see stuff like that until I was, almost grown.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's great to see it regardless. And it's good to know that other kids, coming behind me get to see that, and they get to, dream bigger, what we had the capabilities of dreaming. But at the same time, it's just like, I wish that I had it, for myself. But either way, at least you have it, as a woman. But I will say this though, in terms of the diversity part, there's still so much more work to do on that, wavelength, because there are a lot of people in charge of these promotions who aren't, of, a color, and it's just like they don't necessarily get the importance of that representation. If they do get it, is usually out of, you know, people sort of pushing against them and saying, "Hey, you need more of this. Hey, you need more of this," as opposed to them having an open mind and an open heart to it anyway, because that's just how the world is and how it looks now. So
Mm-hmm.
I totally get that. And even though you might not have seen most of most of yourself, reflected in wrestling, there's beauty and blessings in the fact that you are the first, and that someone will see you and say that they can do that because you did it.
Yeah.
Someone just will see you and see themselves reflected in you, and they feel like, you know what, I can do it because Viva Van did it. So
Mm-hmm.
there's beauty in that, and there will be more after you. Like, I really believe that. Like, I'm really, like, fully pushing that in my soul. Like, there's going to be more like you, there's going to be more like me, and so many other, women of color in wrestling as well. So in speaking about that, like, how did you feel being a part of that panel in Los Angeles, which is how we met? Like, how did Katrina ask you? Because I work with Katrina with Women's Wrestling Talk, so we work together every week.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know all of the people that's on her list. So,
Yeah.
how did that come about? With her asking you to be a part of it, and how did you feel to be asked?
We've been friends for online for a few years now because I did her podcast. I think it was last year. I did her podcast around a year ago, and so
Mhm.
we just been friends, keeping in touch there. And when she was coming out to the LA Comic Con, I think she remembered that I'm from LA, so she messaged me if I was available that weekend. And I'm a very, I'm a very not that I'm a last minute person, but I literally live my week by week because that's how it helps me survive through the busy schedule. Like I don't worry about far in advance. Like if I do, I'll mark the date, but I won't think about it until it gets closer to it. So when it came a week of, I realized, oh my gosh, I didn't message her back if I was available. And I had to double check. I was like, I actually am available. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I am available. Do you still have room for me? She's like, yes, I'll add you right now. So that's how it came about. And I felt
Yeah.
very honored to be a part of it. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal, and it's just like since I'm from, Alabama, like I said, and even doing it in New York, it meant a lot to me to be a part of it because, of course, with not only just from representing from a black woman's perspective, but also representing as someone from the South, it's just like, it meant the world to me to, you know, be a part of it. And the fact that she even asked me, and funny enough, asking me after, you know, a few weeks after I had just left New York from commentating for Black Girl Magic too. I've been in New York 3 times this year.
Oh,
And she was the last, it was the panel, which was my last time up being up there. And it was just really cool to be a part of it because I never really um put together that the amount of work that I've done, even though it's only been almost 3 years now, was
mhm.
worth me, you know, discussing. But the idea that she even thought enough of me to do it was just like, okay, great, you know,
Yeah.
and I'll be with you until, you know, I there's a point where I can't, because there's the possibility of it happening at other, you know, conventions maybe.
Mhm.
But if I can make it, I'm gonna try my best to make it because, like I said, me and Katrina work together all the time, and we've built, you know, a relationship where I trust her vision, you know, and she trusts me. So it's like, you know, we believe in each other. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to be there as much as possible because it's important that women like us tell our stories. And I just loved hearing the diverse stories, you know, that you and Rain Cruz and Kid Bandit and Jen Savani and also TK Trinidad had. Like,
Mhm.
I just love hearing it, and I love, you know, sitting next to you guys. It's like I was getting chills all over my body, even though it was like my third time doing it because we did it
Uh-huh.
also for MCM Comic Con, which was digital, but that was in the UK. It's just like I get chills every time I'm a part of it, you know, and hear other women's stories of how they, you know, overcome and still, you know, pursue everything. It's like I feel inspired more and more, you know, with the stories that I hear. It makes me want to keep going, and I just love being a part of it, and I'm glad to have met you and heard your story. Like, seriously, like, it's really great. And in speaking more about you and your background as a Vietnamese woman, like, how, like, do you feel, does it really like make you feel like warm inside to know that you are, you know, opening a door for other women like you?
I I am very honored. Um, it is a lot of pressure, though, I will admit. But
Yeah.
to be the first one to do it, I'm glad that when I learned that I was the first one, I felt like this is really my calling then. This isn't just my dream, it's my calling. And I have to like, this is my duty to just break down doors for people like me. And although it's hard, but even if it doesn't happen for me, at least I can make it happen for someone after me. So that's what's really important.
Yes, definitely. So, who would you say is your favorite opponent that you faced, you know, in your career so far?
I have a lot. And I don't want to, it's hard to pick because I don't want anyone to get offended if I don't pick all like their names, but I probably have to give it to Sumi Sakai. Sumi Sakai, she's a vet. I loved working her. Like, I've worked her a few times already, and I've learned a lot just working with her the few times that I did. And she's just someone that's so giving, so loving, and always wants to see everyone win. And she deserves more credit than she gets too.
Okay. Well, Sumi Sakai, shout out to you, you know, and hopefully she'll see this and see that you said that about her. And maybe I'll clip it out and then see it and tag her in something. And then she'll, you know, see that you said that. And then, you know, she'll get some more of her flowers there. Like, that's really cool. So,
Yeah.
who would you say is your dream opponent that, you know, that you would love to face in the future?
Dream opponent. Oof. Dream opponent. I hate that I go blank. I always go blank when I get this question because there's just so many people I want to work with. I literally want to work with everyone as much as I can. But if I have to narrow it down, I think one of my dream opponents would probably be to work against Bianca Belair.
Mm-hmm.
I would also love to work against someone like Britt Baker. And Yeah, I think that's what I can narrow it down to right now. But I want to work everyone, anyone and everyone, because I feel like the more people you work with, the more you grow.
Yeah, 100%. And
Oh,
that's a
Jamie
pretty
Hayter
solid.
is like AEW Women's World Champion, so it would be an honor to work against her or with her one day.
Yeah, that's a solid 3. That's those are 3 solid, talents. I mean, you can't like Bianca Belair is that girl, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Dr. Britt Baker, who's like a huge star, with everything she has going on. And then
Hmm.
Jamie, like, they're in the same circles, so you just never know, right?
Hmm.
And then I've seen that you have done work with AEW in the past, right? So you never
Hmm.
know exactly what, will come from that. So if you were
Hmm.
given the opportunity to sign for a mainstream big company like those two or like an Impact Wrestling, would you?
Hmm. I would. Whichever one gives me the
Mhm.
best offer.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like you'll make it if you're collecting belts everywhere at this point and doing all these other things and being super talented and you're gorgeous and everything, like it's going to work. Like I'm going to see you on television. I can feel it. I feel it in my bones.
Oh,
I just
thank
have it. I just feel it in my soul. You're going to make it. You're going to make it. So, who
you.
would you say are your top 5 um favorite wrestlers of all time, and they can be male, female, or non-binary?
Top 5. I have to put Undertaker in there because he
Mhm.
was my favorite one from the game and in person, in real life. Um, Undertaker, Stone Cold Steve Austin was another one of my favorites growing up. Um, why am I going blank? China. I did watch China a lot too when I was younger. I think who else? Who else? I'll put my trainer Rikishi in there and
Yeah.
Lita. In
Oh, definitely,
no
yeah.
particular order because I have so many favorite wrestlers. That's just the 5 that popped up in my head right now.
Yeah, I get it. Like top 5, I feel like asking a top 5 it can be really hard, for
Yeah.
some people to just kind of narrow it down, especially if they love more than one person. Like when people ask me, I just tell them that my favorite male wrestler, even though he's a little bit unpopular right now because of his movie stuff, is The Rock. He's my favorite male, and my favorite female is Mercedes Varnado / Sasha Banks.
Yeah,
She's
she's one.
she's my
That's
goat.
another dream opponent. There you go. She's another
Mhm.
dream opponent for sure.
Yeah, she's my absolute goat. Like, I can watch her
Mhm.
wrestle, all day, and I just love her work ethic and how she just consistently learns,
Yeah.
and just gets better. She just never rests on her laurels at all, and I just love
Hmm.
that about her. So,
Yeah, and she's
she's
always
definitely my favorite.
evolving, always
Mhm.
leveling up. Yeah, she's amazing.
Yes. So, with that in mind and with everything that you have, cooking up with you being as successful as you have been, what would you say is the greatest thing that wrestling has given you?
Guess I can say the greatest thing that wrestling has given me is probably the platform to let people know who I am, the platform to people know about, Vietnamese wrestlers because VPW, the Vietnam Pro Wrestling School, is so new and they're just getting started. And I'm glad that I can be a part of that and help them like build a ring for them to like get going. Now they're doing shows every month and then they're finally having their first women's match in January. And I wish I could be a part of that, but I'm not going to be a part of it. But it's just the platform that wrestling gives me, and I'm very thankful for it. And I've met so many amazing people.
Yeah, that's very valid and that's really beautiful that you have that. And the fact that you're also feeding into the future of wrestling too. So, That's beautiful. Well, Viva Van, thank you so much for coming on the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. It's such an honor. It was such an honor to meet you, be on the panel with you in LA, and to have you on my show. Like, I just knew I had to have you on because I just wanted to talk to you more because we had to rush away and stuff. But I'm glad that we had this opportunity to speak with each other and get to know each other more. So just tell everybody where they can find and follow you and what you've got going on, in the coming weeks. Of course, there's a new year happening. So what you've got going on even then.
Well, you guys can find me at Hellbent Vixen on Twitter, IG, Facebook, and TikTok. And I have the rest of the year off, thankfully, so I can spend time with my family. But in the next year, my first match coming back is January 7th for Tomahawk Wrestling, and I am going for a 6th title.
You're going to be like Michael Jordan. You're gonna be like Michael Jordan, except you're not gonna like take stuff personally, of course. With 6 titles, that's really some GOAT behavior right there. That's
we'll
like,
see
God,
what the
that's
new
cool.
year brings, but that's the first thing that's happening.
Yes, definitely. And thank everyone for watching on all of my platforms, on the live platforms. Of course, this interview will be up on my YouTube channel, so you can go back and watch it. Of course, you can follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy. And of course, you can listen to the Hardy Wrestling Podcast everywhere you get your shows, audio, and of course, visual on the YouTube channel as well. Follow it on Facebook at The Hardy Wrestling Podcast and on YouTube at The Hardy Wrestling Podcast. And on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast and on Twitter at Hardy Wrestle Pod. And also thank you to my followers who got me to 903 followers today. That was so cool to wake up to. So thank you guys so much for your love and support. It's been an amazing year. We're going to keep growing and get better even in 2023. So for everyone who is watching, thank you guys for joining me. And of course, enjoy the rest of your holidays. Spend time with your family or even with yourself. If you love yourself, have a great holiday with yourself and all of that. Like, cause that is, valid as well. Don't let nobody tell you it's not valid. It is. So please, love on yourself and take care of yourself for the holiday and buy yourself a present. That's cool too. But if you're around your family, love on them as well. Cause life is crazy. So you just got to do love things and healthy things and happy things. So with that in mind, this is the Hardy Wrestling Podcast with your girl Stephanie Hardy, and of course Viva Van, my special guest. Thank you again for coming on. And then yes, of course, and you can come back anytime.
All right,
anytime.
Let's do it.
Yes, and until next time, bye y'all.